Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. I am trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated, especially if you're somebody who watches my main channel and sometimes watches these videos. Might as well subscribe so you can get the extra content as well. Anyways, Lauri Markkanen has finally gone to an NBA team when it seemed like that was never gonna fucking happen. He was in a sign and trade move to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let me pull this deal up just to make sure I get all the details right. Lauri Markkanen received a $67 million contract over 4 years, which pays $16.5 million a year. And the Bulls received Derrick Jones Jr. and a Portland lottery-protected first-round pick. And the Portland Trailblazers received Larry Nance Jr. The Cavs also sent a second-round pick to the Bulls. So the Bulls move on from Lauri Markkanen in exchange for Derrick Jones Jr. and a lottery-protected first for 2022 from the Portland Trailblazers. So assuming that Damian Lillard plays out this whole year and doesn't ask for a trade at the deadline, that is likely going to mean they get that pick, because I assume the Blazers will make the playoffs this year, just not by a big margin. And I'll say, if I'm the Blazers, I guess you're like trying to pull out the stops to get Dame to come back, but at the same time, like trading a first round pick right before Dame might potentially be leaving your team, like even if they get like the 8th or 7th seed, that's like what, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th pick, one of those three, depending on what it looks like in the Eastern Conference. Like that is a lot. That is not a bad pick to give up right before Dame could potentially be leaving. So I don't know about that. That said, Larry Nance Jr. is by far the best player they have acquired in this offseason, so I'll give them credit for that. And he's someone who can play center, even though he's more suited as a 4, even though he kind of plays more like a big man. He's one of those weird players. So assuming Nurkic has injury stuff, which he always seems to have, Larry Nance Jr. is a pretty solid 5 to put in and out of the starting lineup when necessary. And he can play power forward as well. Other than that, I do hesitate to trade a first round pick for Larry Nance Jr., but it is lottery protected, so if your team does bottom out, if Dame does ask out, you keep your pick, so that's something. But the point is, that pick is likely to convey to the Bulls if Dame stays for the entire year, because the Blazers are likely to make the playoffs if Dame stays for the entire year. So the Bulls could have very well just gotten a first-round pick out of Lauri Markkanen, which seemed like a pipe dream not too long ago, and a second-round pick, which is whatever. It's a second-round pick. It can be something. It could not. You never really know. And then the Blazers got Derrick Jones. The Bulls also got Derrick Jones Jr. I'm talking about the Bulls side of this thing first because I'm a Bulls fan. Bulls get Derrick Jones Jr., who is better than Lauri Markkanen because he can at least contribute really well defensively, and he's a good transition athlete. Terrible shooter. I guess he's been a little bit not as... Let me actually look up his stats. Because the thing is, Derrick Jones Jr., I'm not looking up his stats all the time. I just know him to be a poor three-point shooter. Wow, that was a nightmare. I just combined shooter and junior. And then I said schooner, which isn't a word. So yeah, he did improve marginally to 31.6%. So yeah, not a good shooter, but he is a good defensive player and a good transition athlete, a good finisher. He's a respectable cutter. So, like, I would rather him play minutes than Lauri Markkanen personally, especially with the construction of the Bulls. But now we have to talk about the Cavs side of things, because the Cavs are paying Markkanen $16.5 million a year. And the thing about that is, the reason that there were rumors of the Cavs potentially wanting to trade Colin Sexton was because of the money situation they have, where they're worried about paying some of their young players and the cap that will cause. And like, hey, do we want to give Colin Sexton a max contract? I'm not sure that we do. I'll say that motivation makes sense, on top of the fact that I just think trading Colin Sexton would be best for both teams, because I want Darius Garland to get even more significant of a role, Evan Mobley to get more opportunity, or he obviously hasn't played yet, but to get a lot of opportunity, and Colin Sexton will take away from that just because the fact that he shoots a lot of shots. But regardless, if you're worried about money so much, you wouldn't have given Markkanen this much money and on a longer term deal than what Larry Nance Jr.'s contract was. In fact, let me actually look that up because I am pretty certain Larry Nance has like 2 years on his deal, and they just gave Markkanen a 4-year. Let me pull this up. Show salary, show current contract. No, he has 2 years on his contract. So Markkanen gets 2 years longer for $6.5 million more per year. Don't really know about that one, man. So you're making your cap situation worse for a player that doesn't fit. Lauri Markkanen cannot play small forward, and a lot of people are projecting the Cavs to start him at small forward, and they're saying, why are you complaining about the Cavs getting shooting when they were supposed to get shooting? Markkanen, first of all, has only been an elite three-point shooter this year, and I know his inconsistency is through the fucking roof, so I could very easily see him just having another season shooting 34% from three this year. He's not a small forward. He's not. He is barely a power forward. He's pretty much a center, and a center that has to shoot threes pretty much. That's it offensively, and is a defensive nightmare. To put it simply, the Cavaliers got the worst player in this move for the most money. Don't know about that one. Larry Nance Jr., definitely better than Lauri Markkanen. Derek Jones Jr., I could see you making an argument that Lowry's better, but I would give Derek that spot personally. And believe me, this is coming from somebody who wanted to believe that Lauri Markkanen would be really good, but he just never really was. And in terms of the fit with the Cleveland Cavaliers, if you put Evan Mobley at the 5, sure. If you put Jarrett Allen at the 5, sure. I think you can get away with that defensively because both of those guys are really, really good defensive players. Evan Mobley is projecting to be a good defensive player as soon as he steps in the NBA. But that means you can't play them together. And already playing them together was like a little bit questionable just because Evan Mobley's outside jumper is like not the most set in stone thing in the world. Jarrett Allen is working on being a three-point shooter and all that. But defensively, it's amazing. And offensively, I think they could make it work. Markkanen, however, like, if you're going to start him at small forward over Isaac Okoro, defensively, it's going to be a nightmare because Markkanen cannot defend small forwards. Just point blank period. He cannot defend perimeter players. Like, if he's out there versus, like, Otto Porter Jr., he'll be fine. But if you expect him to play defense against any even semi-talented shot-creating wing, it's not going to work. Even if it's like T.J. Warren, like he's not stopping Jeremy Lamb. Like this is just a huge defensive liability. Sure, you have Mobley and Allen at the basket, so like you can afford to fuck up on the perimeter more so than normal because at least you have the paint on lock. But don't really understand it because Markkanen just can't defend the small forward position. So assuming he's coming off of the bench, you're paying $16.5 million for a bench player. Kevin Love, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's still kind of a bench player on the team. He barely plays, but yeah, like I guess he takes Larry Nance's minutes, which he got a decent amount of for more money for being a worse player. Yeah, I just would not have done this move if I'm the Cavs. Like, sure, they got better at shooting, but their defense got worse. They're paying more money, and they got a worse player overall. I wouldn't have done it. I don't think it's as big of a disaster as some may have been making it out to be, but it's still not a good move. As a Bulls fan, I'm ecstatic about it, though, because I've been tired of the Markkanen situation. Like, literally, even if we found out the Bulls gave Markkanen this contract and he's stuck with the Bulls, I would have been able to live with that just simply by the fact that at least it's fucking over. Because we have been talking about Lauri Markkanen's free agency situation since even before free agency began, and it seemed like a never-ending thing. Markkanen is the last major free agent to be signed, if you would consider him one. So it's nice that situation is finally over. That said, I'm surprised he got as much money as he did. I'm surprised the Bulls got a first-round pick out of the deal. And I'm surprised the Cavs would put so much effort into getting a big man when they just drafted Evan Mobley and re-signed Jarrett Allen to a shit ton of money. So that's fucking weird. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this trade. As for why it's like 3 hours late, I have a chronic oversleeping issue that has only gotten worse as of late. So I woke up, saw the trade news. I actually saw it from a notification from King of the Fourth Quarter, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll make a video on that. And then I laid my head down, and then I fell asleep for like 3 hours. So yeah, I really got to fix that, but that's why this video got delayed. Anyways, that is it. Goodbye.